All right, unless you have lived under a rock for the last few months, you have heard that this is the largest cicada hatch maybe ever, right? Cicadas are coming out. There's two different hatches, a 7-year hatch and a 10-year hatch happening at the same time. So we don't get to talk about this type of bass fishing very often. But today we're gonna break down some baits that some you're probably, of course, that's a cicada bait, and others maybe under the radar, maybe you haven't thought of, that can be great cicada hatch options. So if you would like to join in on a bug bait conversation,
finally.
I'm looking at you, Jeff.
Finally.
I know that you're excited for
I've
this
been waiting
one.
for this 10 years.
All right, let's have some fun. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle.
Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick.
Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's new this week at the Hookup Tackle?
What a beautiful post-long fish.
Look at that.
Look at that gut on that. That's a nice fish.
Welcome back, my friends. I am Bill with the Hookup Tackle, Tackle Otaku on Instagram, being joined by the world's most excited and most amped
Finally.
bug angler on the planet,
Ugh.
Jeffrey the King. He pretends to be a swim bait guy.
Pretend,
but
yes.
This is actually
the
his
realm.
lane. In
Mhm.
fact,
Well-
we should be switching places.
Honestly, realistically,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I know you're so excited you probably can't even contain
No,
yourself.
I'm shaking right now, actually.
Just to make sure, I know you feel like you were underground for 10 years and you
Yes,
popped
I
up for
finally
this
came up.
episode. Yes.
Finally,
Well,
a real episode.
Well said. All right, so a cicada. This is basically a giant beetle with wings that pops out of the ground. It lives its whole life underground for 7 years or 10 years, depending on its cycle. And then it explodes out. It basically buzzes around, it sheds its skin, and dies. It's basically the life cycle of a cicada.
Beautiful.
So this is something that usually every summer happens to some extent, right? Whether it's just a few or a bunch. But this year they're anticipating the most cicadas maybe that we've ever had, or that we've had in many, many decades. So this is going to play to the fish in those areas. This is going to become a staple food. A cicada hatch is no different than any other hatch. A lot of places in the country, especially in the Midwest, you get mayfly hatches, and you get smallmouth that are feeding on mayflies and all this kind of stuff. The cicada becomes a staple food the same way dragonflies do in the fall or late summer, or the same way shad do earlier in the season. So this is something that we can imitate. It's something that we can match. But this is also something that just to keep in mind, that we know that they're eating this food, and how to plan and how to target them and with what. And that's basically the idea of this conversation today. So I am going to just start diving in. We're just going to talk about some baits that I believe are perfect for cicada hatch, and if your fish are feeding on cicadas, these are things that you might want to put on your radar or have in your box. Okay, so let's start at the top. Okay, so obviously when cicadas fall in the water, they are going to land and they're going to kind of just buzz around. If you've ever seen a cicada land, it lands and it just kind of shakes and quivers and buzzes on the surface and just kind of moves around. And so there are several companies that make actual cicada imitation baits that look just like the damn thing, right? So Megabass is one of those companies. They make a bait called the Siglet. There's a grand Siglet version of it, and there is a tiny Siglet version of it. I'll take one of each out. All right, so here is a grand Siglet. Okay, so you can see it is basically how I described it earlier, a big beetle with some wings, right? So it has these silicone wings. You tie, you pull it, and these wings kind of act like a crawler, where the bait just kind of scurries on the surface. There's a tiny version of it that I love. If you guys are fishing smaller ponds, streams, if maybe you're fishing some bass and some trout. The tiny cicada is a great one. Also in the Great Hunting series, there is a version, so the Great Hunting Haruzemi, same thing, right? So you basically have this very lifelike floating topwater bug bait that you cast it out and you just pull it in small little movements, and you let those silicone wings grab the water so that it just creates a little buzzing action on the surface. And it's probably the closest thing to matching the hatch that you're going to get. It looks like it kind of swims like it, but profile wise, when that thing is just sitting on the surface of the water, it looks just like the real thing. Okay, so there you go. The Siglet, tiny Siglet, Great Hunting Haruzemi from Megabass. That's bait number 1. All right, another one that's very, very similar to the Megabass is the Shin Mushi, and this is from Duos. This is the Realis Shinmushi. Now this is, again, kind of a Siglet style bait. It's got a very similar shape, a little bit different build, a little bit different look, right? So it's going to mix it up a little bit. Instead of having that kind of, you know, little double hook on the bottom, you've got 2 treble hooks on this guy. You've got the wings a little bit more forward, okay? And you've got some rubber legs that kind of come out the sides right here. If I get that hook out of my finger, very sharp hooks, and now it's in that finger. Okay, so you have these rubber wings. You can take these out. You can actually open the back of this bait and replace those. So if you want to, you know, spread them out, if you want to change the colors of this, you can. Add new legs. However you want to do it, you can do it. But this is a very effective little topwater bait. And same thing, it's a floating topwater bait. You're gonna throw it out, looks just like the real thing, and you just kind of pull it slowly and just let those wings kind of start vibrating. With any of these baits with silicone wings, a couple things just to note. A, you don't want to go too fast, because if you go too fast, the wings, they flex. So if they flex too far back, the bait's just going to spin in a circle. So if you're fishing this and you're winding it and you're noticing that your cicada is spinning in a circle instead of quivering, you're going too fast. The second thing is that these wings can be very susceptible to heat. Okay, so in the summer or anytime there's direct light, I would not store your bait in the package somewhere where the light's directly on it, right? So if you have this new in package, you know, I wouldn't put the package on the deck of your boat or on your dash. Take the bait out of the package, put it in your box, put your box, you know, in your bag or, you know, wherever, somewhere not in the sun, so you don't have direct sun on these silicone wings, because it does have a tendency to warp them. Okay, so there you go, bait number 2, the Shin Mushi. That's a good one. All right, we're gonna stay on topwater for a minute. So just going a little bit bigger and kind of getting out of the exact replica size of a cicada, but staying true to true cicada colors, okay? Deps makes a small crawler called the Tiny NZ Crawler, and they make multiple cicada colors. So this is watermelon cicada, this is tiger cicada, okay? Both would be good. And by the way, cicadas typically are anywhere from a green to a brown to a black. Some, I've seen some that have red in them, some have like shimmies, like shines, right? So any of these darker type colors can be the right option, right? But really more than anything, it's putting something in that just gives the illusion of the real thing. So with the Tiny NZ Crawler, very similar to the bug baits that we just talked about, you want to make sure that your retrieve with this thing is very slow. Okay, it's a small bait. If you go too fast, it's going to blow out. All right, so here's a look at the tiny cicada. So you can see it's, or the Tiny NZ Crawler. You can see it's a little bit bigger. Here's the Grand Siglet, just as a size comparison.
A little bigger.
So a little bit bigger, but still
tiny,
pretty small. You know what I mean? I mean, it's still a pretty small bait. So it's got the striping and the coloration of a cicada. It's got the right colors. But again, just the way you have to fish this, it's gonna have to go very, very slow, and it's gonna give off that kind of buggy look on the surface of just being very slow. Of course, you can throw a big full-size crawler here and it might look like some mutant freaking cicada that fell from Jupiter or something. Can you imagine?
Do not.
Yeah, I would recommend.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, let's stay smaller. I think the more we try to match the hatch, the better. But this gives us an option to go just up in size without having to go too small. So that's the Deps Tiny NZ Crawler. Jeff brings up a good point. How heavy are these things? Well, I guess that's good to know. So the Tiny NZ Crawler is 75 millimeters, half of an ounce. Okay, so this is something that you could throw on like a normal bait casting rod. As we start going down in size to like some of our first couple that we talked about, the Grand Siglet is 42.5 millimeters, a quarter ounce. Okay, so still you could throw this on, you know, bait casting gear, but when we start getting into the Tiny Siglet or the Great Hunting Haruzemi, it's 1.7 grams. So this is true bait finesse territory or spinning rod territory. And then the Realis Shinmushi is another one that's a quarter ounce. Okay, so you're kind of in that Grand Siglet sizing. So quarter ounce to half ounce so far. Jeff, I'm going to give you another one that kind of staying in that tiny crawler mode. Okay. This is the Micro Dodge from Raid. Okay, so this is basically a soft plastic version of the bait that we just looked at. This one's designed to be rigged weedless, so you're going to use like a 2/0 hook is perfect for this. So like a 2/0 Infini hook or EWG style hook, and you're gonna rig it like you would any other soft plastic, right? And then again, these softer silicone wings are going to allow the bait to just quiver side to side on the surface. So it's just going to create this little shimmy on the surface. Of course, the nice thing about the Micro Dodge is if you don't want this shimmy, so let's say you're fishing a cicada hatch in the morning and all of a sudden you turn the corner and they're blowing bait up and you want something to move a little bit faster, all you have to do is literally you just pull those wings out and now you have a walking bait. So now you can throw this and just twitch it like you would any other walking bait, and this thing will move side to side on the surface and walk. And then of course, if you turn the next corner and there's cicadas again, all you have to do is reinsert those wings. And you can do all of this, by the way, while the hook is in it. They thought this through. So, you know, boom, then you have the wings attached again and you're back to being a cicada. So cool little bait. It's available in a bunch of colors. Again, color-wise, I would just try to mimic the hatch as close as you can, but give them what they want to eat. All right, if there's a bunch of black cicadas falling, but they're eating your chartreuse Micro Dodge, great. Give them the chartreuse Micro Dodge. It doesn't always have to make sense, but we're just looking for a starting point until we figure out what they're after. So that's a really cool one also. Now, you can just stay in cicada colors as well. So, you know, popper's a great thing to throw during a hatch of some kind because a popper moves very slow. Usually it's just boom and then just kind of staying there, and that feathered treble usually opens up. So anytime you have hatches, a popper's a good idea. Megabass makes a true cicada color in both the Pop X and the Pop Max, which is just a very natural, lifelike color. So it's got that same kind of shimmy on the back, and it's got some of that pearlescence. So again, kind of that watermelonish brown kind of color, designed to just look like a cicada. So this is something that you can just fish very slowly on the surface and obviously throw with, you know, your normal gear. OSP also makes a cicada color in one of their wake baits, so the Cobuzzin. Okay, so this is a 7.2 grams, so a quarter ounce, 40 millimeter. I'll take it out so you can see it. But this is the actual cicada color. So this is something that you can fish just barely subsurface, and you can fish it very slow, and it's just going to move back and forth. But it's got that kind of buggy type coloration on the bottom, where it's kind of got that exoskeleton there and some markings on the side and the feather. So again, it's just kind of matching the coloration, and it's going to be high in the column, so you could always do something like that as well. A couple other things that aren't necessarily specific imitations to cicada, but are good ideas when these things are happening. If it's in a little bit more open water and they're getting kind of picky, you can always go with just like a floating bug style bait. Okay, so OSP makes a small Spinnuts in a low specific gravity that's almost a floater that you could fish right at the surface. You can just put it on a little 1 or a 1/0 hook, and it's going to walk the dog. They also make, from Duo, they make the Realis Ninmushi. And they make 3 different sizes of this, but I think the Ninmushi is probably the most cicada-esque size. This is an amazing bait to fish subsurface, like on a drop shot. It's kind of like a secret drop shot of smallmouth guys, but it is designed as a floating soft plastic, right? So it's pretty stretchy, it's high buoyancy, and it's got all these little legs on it. So if you just fish it on like a wacky rig hook or a nose hook right there on the head, so just go right through the head and throw it, as that sits there, it just quivers, and all these legs just kind of quiver. So all you gotta do is just kind of shake the rod tip, and it just continues to quiver on the surface. It's gonna look like, you know, kind of a dying cicada, like the last breath that it has. That could be a really good option. So that's a solid option. And then finally, you know, a lot of times this stuff happens in some gnarly stuff, right? Cicadas aren't always, you know, dropping and happening in, you know, finessey areas. Sometimes they're back in the thick shit, right? And we need to throw something in there that actually can pull fish out. So this is actually a great time of the year to throw a frog. Okay, now I would recommend throwing a frog that you can fish very slow and methodical in certain areas, so it's matching kind of what they're seeing in real time, right? So a cicada's not falling and then, like, you know, walking its way out of there, right? It's not like, oh hell yeah, I'm on the water. So you want to throw something that you can put in there and either pop. So it's a great time of the year for a popping frog. So like a Buster K is a great idea, a spro popping frog, a gavacho, any of that would be a good idea. I would just stay in something that's darker. So your reds, your blacks, your greens, that kind of stuff, right? Evergreen makes some cicada type colors in their kicker frog that can be good as well. But one of my favorites this time of the year is a Teckel honker frog. And the honker in Teckel, the watermelon color is like a perfect cicada color. And again, you can play with colors. So, I mean, give them what they want to eat. But the watermelon color looks just watermelon on the top, but on the bottom it has all these little kind of like faint yellow kind of markings. It gives it kind of a buggy type look. But the honker frog is designed, I mean, you can fish it many ways, but the best way to fish this is to just pop it. A lot like you would a popper. So you're just gonna pop it, and those legs are just gonna churn, just gonna, right? And it floats, and it floats. So you're giving that same kind of illusion of like a buzzing on the surface, short little bursts so the fish are seeing it and they're hearing it, and it can make an excellent cicada imitation this time of the year and gives you an option to still throw your 65, your 70 or 80 pound braid, your heavy rods, and still be able to take advantage of the season. All right, so that is a wrap, and I'm sure there's a million other potential cicada imitations, and if I left something off that you guys have been absolutely trashing them on already, I'd love to hear about it, and everybody would love to hear about it, because I want us to all grow as a community and, you know, share info with each other. So if you could drop it down below, we'd love to know about it. If you have questions on any of the baits that we talked about, drop me a question down below and I will get answers for you, whether it's riggings or color selection or sizing or whatever. Happy to help. Jeff will put links to the products. You guys want to check any of them out closer. And whatever you do, just go have fun, right? Take advantage of kind of this weird, bizarre season that we're going to have that we don't get to have that often. Try something different, right? Expand your horizons. Try to catch them on something cool and weird and different, and have a good time on the water. So on behalf of myself and Jeff and everybody here at the Hookup Tackle Guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching our videos. Thank you for your business. Have a great cicada season. Jeff, you are hatched. Go enjoy.
I'm done with
Go
swim
out
baits,
into
baby.
the world.
It's bug
Catch
bait
some
season.
fish. Hell yeah. All right, we'll see you guys again soon. Peace, my friends.